Welcome to part 11 and the last one of the module 2, which is forecasting of production and service system planning part 1. So in this lecture, we are talking about that there is a two way to report the forecast accuracies. Okay. So when we are saying the forecast accuracies means what? Means we are talking about the root mean square error, mean square error, mean absolute deviation, mean absolute percentage error. So whatever the measure of forecast accuracies you are measuring, so there is the two way to report that one. So till now, all the methods we have discussed against that we calculated the measure of forecast accuracies that is called as in sample forecast errors. Okay, and we reported that one and we said that the method who is providing us or giving us the smaller these measures of accuracies or measures of forecast errors, so the better the method is. But we were taking the forecast error based on the in-sample data. So what's the meaning of the in-sample data? In-sample data means the data we have shown to the model, okay, which we have given to the model, and then based on that given data, we have predicted the values against them and we calculated the forecast error. Okay, so there is a other method which is called as the out of sample forecast errors. Okay, so what does that mean is, so first of all, if you are going to select the best forecasting method using the in sample, so what is happening, so remember that the model which fit the data well does not necessarily give us the best forecast. So that means if you are using the in sample data, and for the in sample data that particular forecasting method giving us the smaller measure of forecast errors, that doesn't guarantee that it will going to predict very well. Okay, so that will may create the overfitting of the problem in the data. Okay, so in order to overcome this overfitting, so we can use the out of sample forecast accuracies. So how we can calculate the out of sample forecast accuracies? We are going to divide our available data into the two sets. One is called as the training data set, another is called as the test data sets. So theoretically speaking, mostly people recommend that you can use the 80% of your data as a training data to train the model parameters, and then test 20% of the data to test how good forecast results that model has produced. Okay, so that test, based on that test data, we are basically calculating the forecast accuracies. So let me give you the example. So if you remember, we have already discussed in our previous lectures simple exponential smoothing method. Okay. So regarding the simple exponential smoothing, we know the formula is ft plus 1 is equal to alpha at plus 1 minus alpha ft. Okay, where the alpha we are using this one. So the first value we are going to use the knife method. Okay, and then using these two values we can predict the third time period. So the third time period forecast is going to be 0.654, that is the value of alpha, multiplied by what was the actual demand of, because we were forecasting the third time period, what is the actual demand of the period 2, which is 152, plus 1 minus 0.654 multiplied by the forecast value of the time period 2, which is 143. So after solving it, we will get this value. Okay, so that means what we have done is that we actually we have the available data up to the time period 24, but in order to train our model, which means in order to finalize this forecasting, we use this first 9 values. Okay, that is basically the training data, right? Now we haven't shown these values till now. So what I am going to do is I am going to take the planning horizon is equal to 1, and I will forecast every next time period, and then we will try to calculate the forecast error. So what I am going to do is, so once we have forecasted till time period 9, so now in order to predict this particular value, which is f10, we know that the formula will be alpha fa9 plus 1 minus alpha f9. So we will get this value. So once we have predicted the 10th value, then we are going to show the value of the 10th period, because we are trying to predict one period ahead. Okay. So then once we have shown this time period 10th value, and we already have this time period 10th forecasted value, without showing this 164, we are going to predict for the 11th period. Okay. So for the 11th period, once again, we are going to use alpha A10 plus 1 minus alpha and then F10. So we are going to predict this one. So the same process is going to be repeated till now. Now the out of sample forecast is basically, instead of using these time periods, okay, which we were taking earlier, that is basically let me take this one. Okay, so instead of using this data set and this forecasting, okay, to calculate the measure of forecasted accuracies, what we are going to use is, we are going to use this test data, okay, this actual demand and the forecasted value, and then we are going to calculate all the measures of forecast errors, such as mean square errors, such as root mean square error, such as mean absolute percentage error, mean absolute error, which is also known as mean absolute deviation, mean square errors. Okay, so that thing is known as out of sample forecast accuracies reporting. So remember that it is a good practice to pick that particular method which is basically doing good, that when it is producing the out of sample forecast errors lesser and lesser compared to the in sample. Okay, so I hope you got the idea. So thank you so much. See you in the next video.